Okay, 8th grade, welcome back. I know we have a little bit of a glare, but luckily it's just on this journal part, which is right in your packet, so it's not that big of a deal. So today we're in our writing packet, which is different from the packet we were in yesterday. So make sure that you're in the writing packet and following along in there. So today we're on pages 7 and 9 in there, and it's Wednesday, April 6th. So to start with, on page 7, there's a journal in there. That's going to be something you guys do completely independently because obviously I can't answer those journals for you. And it's a super informal writing. That's what a journal entry is. So you're writing personally, you're writing about your life, your experiences, that sort of thing. So the journal asks you to write, it says, describe an activity or hobby that is important to you. How did you begin doing this activity? What do you enjoy about it, and why is it important to you? So for these journals, unless it tells you otherwise, I want you guys to write at least one paragraph. Now, how many sentences in a paragraph? We've discussed this many times before. So 5 to 7 sentences, as always. So that means you need to write at least 5 sentences in order for it to be a paragraph. So that, again, you guys are going to do independently, one paragraph for each journal entry. So today we're going to talk about gerunds. So that's just a grammar thing. I know a lot of you guys want to talk more about grammar. Okay. So we're talking about gerunds today. So in order to understand what a gerund is, we need to understand what a verbal is. So verbal is a type of word that is formed as a verb but acts as a noun, adjective, or adverb. So it's a word that would usually be a verb, but in certain specific instances, it acts as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. So a gerund, now verbal, that's what a verbal is. So it's a verb that acts as a noun, adjective, or adverb. Now, a gerund is a verbal that functions as a noun. So we said it can function as a noun, adjective, or adverb. Well, a gerund specifically functions as a noun, so ignore the adjective and adverb for today. And it functions as a noun, and to form one, you add ing to a verb. Now, we're going to touch on this a little bit more at the end, but not all verbs ending in ing are gerunds, and we'll explain how that works here. So there's 4 different ways that a gerund can work within a sentence. So it can be, first of all, it can be the subject of a sentence. So the subject of a sentence is what the sentence is talking about. So what is the sentence talking about overall? So in this first sentence, it says, singing is important to Robert. Well, if you said, an easy way to tell what the subject is if you say, what is important to Robert? Singing. Then that's the subject, because it's all talking about singing. What's important to Robert? Singing is. So here we see that singing, because what is a noun? A noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. So singing kind of takes place as like an idea of something that someone can do. So singing, it doesn't say Robert is singing. If we said Robert is singing, then that would mean he's doing the act of singing. But here it's just talking about how like singing is an important hobby to him that he has. So singing is the subject of the sentence here and is acting as a noun. Now, a predicate noun is what, or a predicate nominative. Sorry, pronunciation is hard. Predicate nominative, what that is when something renames the subject of the sentence. So here, the subject of this sentence is main interest. So main interest would be the thing that you're into the most, right? So what singing does here, it says his main interest is singing. Well, singing is renaming this main interest because his main interest is singing, right? So singing, you could say singing is his main interest. You could say it the other way around and it would still make sense. Basically, is what's happening there. So what this does is it's just another way you can say this, if that makes sense. I know this is kind of complicated. But here it's acting as a noun because it doesn't say he is singing or he is going to sing or he's going to go singing, nothing like that. It's talking about it as if it's an idea of something that he could do, which would make it a noun. The direct object is about who's receiving the action of the verb, if that makes sense. So Roberto loves singing. So if you think about it as like receiving the verb would be loves. So he loves singing. The act of singing or the idea of singing is receiving Roberto's love. So this isn't the subject of the sentence, but it's what the subject is doing something to the direct object. So in this case, Roberto is loving singing. So singing again here is just an idea. It's not saying that he is singing actively in the sentence. It's just saying that he loves singing. So the object of the preposition, that's just the subject that like comes after some sort of preposition or prepositional phrase. So here our preposition is without. So it says without singing, Roberto's life would be a lot duller. It would just be a lot more boring. So it's not saying he's singing. It's just saying if his life didn't have singing in it, he'd be a lot more bored. So, as I said before, which we'll just touch on really quickly, not all verbs ending in ing are gerunds. It will be a part of a verb phrase with is or are, usually. So, like here we have singing is important. His interest is singing. Now these two don't have is or are, but the way that you can tell that it's not a verb is because it's not what the subject of the sentence is doing, right? So if it said, Roberto is singing, that would be a verb. It would not be a gerund anymore, even though it ends in ing, because he is actively singing. That is what he's doing. That's what a verb is whatever the subject of the sentence is doing. In none of these sentences is Roberto actually singing. He's just thinking about singing, or it says he loves singing. In this sentence, the verb would be loves, that sort of thing. So now we're going to take a look at the guided practice on page 8 together, and then you guys will do the stuff on page 9 on your own. So let's take a look at page 8 together right now. Okay, so if we look at the bottom of page 8 here, we have the guided practice. So it says, find and underline each gerund. Write S for subject, P for predicate nominative, DO for direct object, and OP for object of a preposition, and then tell how the gerund is, or to tell how the gerund is used. Write none if the sentence has no gerund phrase. So it says, hint, sometimes a gerund is a predicate nominative. Remember, a predicate nominative comes after a linking verb. So if we look up at the predicate nominative here, that linking verb is that is or are that we are talking about. If we look at the first one here, it says Roberto's chorus finds pleasure in performing. We need to find the gerund, which is the actual word, the verb that ends in ing. So what word here ends in ing? Performing, right? So I'm going to highlight it instead of underline, but it does the same thing. So performing is our gerund here. Well, first we need to identify that it's a gerund at all, because some of them could be no gerund. But this one here is a gerund. I'll just go ahead and start with that. So Roberto's chorus finds pleasure in performing. So we're looking for the object, which one of these four this type of gerund is. So if we look at our examples, it says singing is very important to Roberto. That would be the subject of the sentence. Well, here the subject of the sentence is Roberto's chorus, right? So we know it's not that one. Predicate nominative is where this renames this. So singing is also his main interest. Well, here, performing is not also his chorus. That's not the same thing. So we know it's not a predicate nominative. Direct object, that's more so going to be a smaller, more simple sentence. So that one is not going to be it. So if we look at object of a preposition, without singing, Roberto's life would be a lot duller. Well, if we look down here, we see we have a prepositional phrase at our end here, and that's the object of that prepositional phrase. So this one is going to be object of a preposition. So number 2 says planning began months ago for their concert. So obviously our word here, if it is a gerund, is going to be planning. So is it saying that they are planning something, or is it talking about planning as if it's an idea that they're completing? Well, if we look up here, singing is very important to Roberto. Most of the time, our verb is not going to be at the beginning of our sentence. So this one here is a gerund. Now, it's at the beginning of the sentence because it is the what of that sentence, the subject, because it's talking all about planning, how that began months ago for their concert. So that's the subject of the sentence. Now this one says, now the chorus is practicing daily. Well, let's look here. What is the chorus doing? The chorus is practicing. So in this sentence, practicing is a verb. So it would not be a gerund because it's not acting as a noun. It is actually the action that the chorus is doing. They are practicing. Here, it's not saying that Roberto's chorus is performing. It's saying they find performing to be pleasurable. So they find it. They're not actually talking about them performing. Here, they're saying that the planning began. So the verb is beginning, not the verb planning. Here, they're talking about the chorus actually practicing. So practicing would be a verb here, which means that there's no gerund phrase in number 3. So number 4 says they practice harmonizing over and over. So what is our ing verb here? Well, it would have to be harmonizing. Now, is it a gerund phrase? It's saying they practice. So we know practice is our verb here. So, direct object, he loves singing. They practice harmonizing. If you take out this over and over again, usually when you have a direct object, it's going to be something shorter, like they practice harmonizing or Roberto loves singing. The over and over just adds a little bit of extra to it. But it's saying, what do they practice? Harmonizing. Harmonizing is the idea that they practice over and over again, making it a noun, which would make this one a direct object. So it says their other important job is advertising. Well, we know advertising is our verb here. And we have that, if we look here, it says that a predicate nominative comes after a linking verb. If you look here and you're kind of confused what the verb is is because it is existing as something. So the important job is what? The job is advertising. So if you get a job in advertising, advertising is the type of job that you have. It's not acting as a verb. So if it's coming after a linking verb, then it has to be a predicate nominative. Now the last one says singing is something the whole community can enjoy. Well, this one is going to be like one we've already done. Singing is our ing verbal here. And if you say, what is something the whole community can enjoy? Singing, which would make it a subject because it's saying what the whole sentence is talking about. So now you guys are going to go ahead and do page 9 on your own for practice. If you guys have any questions, I'll be available during office hours just like always. So please let me know if you need any help with any of these questions.